Welcome to the Up Arrow Podcast with William Harris, featuring top business leaders sharing strategies and resources to get to the next level. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey everyone, I'm William Harris. I'm the founder and CEO of Element and the host of the Up Arrow Podcast, where I feature the best minds in e-commerce to help you scale from 10 million to 100 million and beyond as you up arrow your business and your personal life. Have you ever opened your ad account, looked at the numbers, and for a moment, you just couldn't think? Not because you didn't know what to do, but because something in you just froze. So you start clicking, adjusting budgets, trying to do something to regain control. But deep down, you know this isn't your best thinking. It's not strategy, it's not experience, it's your state. Today's guest has lived that exact moment. Rita Ainsworth was high-performing, managing serious budgets, doing everything right, until one day she hits a wall and realizes you can't outwork a dysregulated system. That realization sent her deep into neuroscience, stress, and performance, and now she helps founders and marketers do something most people never learn: reset on demand, so they can make better decisions under pressure when it actually matters. Rita, welcome to the Up Arrow Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, I was very excited about this topic because it's something that I really appreciate just in marketing, even outside of marketing. I've got daughters who play sports, who are in music, and this same concept comes up in any other field, and it's things that I'm always talking about them, right? Like with their mental game and things like that, because it's like you can train your body, but it's like you got to train these other pieces too. And so there's a lot that I've read on this. I'm very excited about the topic.
It's fascinating to me because performance marketing or running a business is so demanding and so intense. And I see entrepreneurs, media buyers, they just sprinting. They're sprinting,
Sure.
And they think they're going to sprint for a long time, where in reality, you have to take the same approach as if you were doing a Ironman, ultra marathon, any sort of long race where you have to pace yourself. And I was racing myself for a good 3 years until I couldn't. And that's why it's so important to me, just to share why it shouldn't be a sprint.
What's interesting is I think entrepreneurship draws a lot of people who are sprinter personalities. A lot of ADHD people in entrepreneurship and things like that. And so it's like, we love to just like, here's an idea, go, run, do. Because a lot of times you almost have to be impulsive to start the business anyways. You almost have to not think about all of the problems that you're going to run up to in order to actually just get motivated enough to do it. And so then there's that transition. It's like, great, you got it up and moving. Now you have to switch into like that steady state. And I think that's hard for a lot of people who have the personality to have started it in the first place.
I see that a lot. I see this field lends itself very well to certain patterns, to certain unhealed wounds, to certain beliefs, and it's very, very good for keep feeding that beast. So I think it's a realization. Why did I start this business? Am I running this business from some sort of unresolved fear? Or am I running this business from joy, contribution, fulfillment, anything other than fear? So I think it's a good question to just stop and ask.
Yeah. I've got just two quick shout outs, and then I want to really get into this topic because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. First, I want to give a shout out to the wonderful Sarah Carasona. She's a previous guest on the podcast. She runs BA Commerce. She's the one who put us in touch. And so just Sarah, thank you very much. And also, if you're listening, go check out her episode too. Very, very insightful.
Sarah's a good friend of mine. So yeah, I'm very grateful she introed us.
Yeah. The other one here is I just want to announce that this episode is brought to you by Element. Element is an award-winning advertising agency optimizing e-commerce campaigns around profit. In fact, we've helped 13 of our customers get acquired, with the largest one selling for nearly $800 million and one that IPO'd. You can learn more on our website at element.com, which is spelled ELUMYNT.com. Okay, we are going to be talking about why smart media buyers make bad decisions under pressure and how to fix it. And I want to read this post from David Herman. I think he posted it just today. It was either today or yesterday, but this was on X, and he was talking about, he was like, this week, Meta ads simply broke. You probably haven't heard a peep from Meta on it, but it's been brutal. We're talking turning ad accounts off, brutal. And he goes through and he lists all these things, and he just says, I'm tired, guys. And he says, what does he say? He said, I find myself being a therapist to CMOs and brand teams trying to figure out, is this a bug, a creative issue, or the business? There are a lot of bugs on Meta, and it happens, and not just Meta. This happens on a lot of other platforms too.
Yeah.
But let's imagine that we're inside Ads Manager. Yes, there are bugs, but I've got a client rightfully breathing down my neck because performance isn't where it needs to be. I'm in there making a decision, but who's actually making that decision? Is it me or my nervous system?
So we think that it's me, whichever part it is. But that decision can have very different outcomes based on the state.
Mm-hmm.
So I catch myself throughout the day in very different states, and the same situation can look very different based on what state I am in. So if I have energy, if I slept well, if I had good hydration and very basic things that body needs, I open the Ads Manager, I look at it, and I see, okay, the performance rubbish, and I need to deal with the client, but I've been there before. I know what numbers to check. I know how to communicate so I don't raise even more alarms than necessary for the client. There's a lot of co-regulation happening between the nervous systems. So it's important for me to stay grounded. And when I'm in a good state, I can do all of that.
Yeah.
But then, go on.
No, go for it. You're going to take me exactly where I was going to go. So go for it.
Yeah. So then another scenario is maybe I slept badly. Maybe I had too much coffee. I'm already wired. And I look at it, it's like, oh, for God's sake, why do I have this on top of this? I didn't need it. And then I see a message from client. That's annoying to me as well. So I'm on fire. I am triggered by everything, and making decisions is harder because I can easily overreact. I can easily turn down things when I just need to wait them out. I can send some message that I shouldn't be sending. And then another scenario is I'm just so tired that I just want to hide. I don't want to communicate. And the worst thing you can do when things are not performing great is pretend that maybe something, client's not going to see it and you just can get away with it. And then you start losing trust. So the outcome of your decisions will be based on what nervous state you're in. And state depends a lot on just your basic needs of sleep and nutrition and rest. Rest is, for a lot of people, rest is something that they fear, that it's weakness, that it's going to be judged, where rest is very much regulation, part of the regulation.
It's wild because I went through a period of time building my company where I was convinced that the best thing I could do for the business was to just keep hustling. And I would work until, 3 a.m. and then I'm back up at 7 a.m. and I'm back at it working and I'm grinding and I'm hustling. And I accomplished a lot. I won't lie that I did accomplish a lot, but I wasn't working out. I was eating crap food, right? Like maybe McDonald's 3 times a day, right? So it's like whatever I could grab quick, fast, easy. And I probably did that for maybe 3 years. And what's interesting is I was convinced that was the only way that I could be effective. Eventually, I realized that that's not the best way to do it. And I did start taking time for my morning workout, my devotions, like meditation and prayer. And then in the evening time, like really regulating my bedtime. So that way my circadian rhythm was on, turning off the computer at a certain time. And what's wild is I do get significantly more done in less amount of time. I am more effective with all of the decisions that I make. That doesn't mean that I don't still make mistakes, but it's wild being on the other side of this and you're just like, oh, I can see the colors for the first time over here. I thought I saw colors there. I didn't see them. I do see them now. And I think we downplay just how important all of those pieces really are.
Mm. And life is not just work. Like, it's so easy to forget why we're doing what we're doing, because a lot of times the business starts when we want freedom, when we worked in a corporate job or any other job and we think, oh, I'll be my own boss. Or if you have children, you say, I want them to have everything maybe that I didn't have. And then somehow we lose sight of why we started it, and it becomes just this beast that we need to keep feeding. I've lost friendships because I was always working. Luckily, my husband at the time, he was also workaholic, so we kind of didn't
commiserated. Yeah,
exactly. But I see that a lot. Like, people I coach, they would say, "Oh, my partner's complaining because I'm always working, or I'm always grumpy," or like, it just spills into all other areas of the life, as well as health. And like, my health was impacted massively. So yeah, it's realization that actually I can do this from a place of joy, and from the place of it being easy. I just need to ask question: why is it hard?
Break this down for me before we get into the 3 states, because I want to go to the 3 states next. But before we get into that, let's imagine that, again, somebody's in a very stressful situation, and they're stressed out. They can feel the stress. What's happening between the amygdala, limbic system, and the prefrontal cortex in that high stress moment?
So amygdala is the older part of your brain. So it developed first. There's like quite a few million years gap between amygdala and prefrontal cortex. So it's so automatic because survival is the key.
Sure.
It takes over. It takes over so fast, in like milliseconds. We don't even have time to think, is this actually dangerous to my survival? I think like that's kind of one of the issues right now. We perceive everything as threat. Where this survival mechanism was designed for, a saber-toothed tiger chasing you every so often, and you escape or you don't. But, let's say you escape and then stress is over. Now we have all the notifications, we have emails, and we perceive our brain perceives that as actual physical threat. So it's asking yourself, is it? Like, is the annoyed client a threat? Not really. There's consequences, but in reality, it's not a massive, threat. So when amygdala takes over, our thinking brain capacity diminishes massively. So we can't make rational decisions. And in that state, it's like, okay, I am looking at the threat. I don't see any options from that side. I don't see any options from that side. It's only this tiny little sliver that I have available to me, and I don't see any other options. So I think that limiting view of the world, of what's around us, of what options do I have, that gets reduced so much that it warps the reality in really.
There's a really good book, I'm just going to show it here, by Dr. Carolyn Leaf, called Switch on Your Brain. Might be one of my favorite books that I've ever read. And she talks about how thoughts become physical structures in the brain, almost like neural trees. And there's been a lot of interesting research on this, that thought almost, thought precedes matter to a point. What's interesting is like the thoughts actually create these changes, not that the changes create thoughts, which is interesting, right? Because we see that these thinking things change things. In these moments, these high stress moments, are we basically just running old wiring then? It's almost like, hey, we're just defaulting to this old wiring and letting that run instead of being able to create these new states?
Yes, because the body looks for least resistance. So how can I burn the least amount of energy? Again, going back to survival, and energy is a big part of it. So we go to those old patterns, even though they're not, good for us anymore. It takes more effort, more energy to do something that is beneficial than just to keep going through the same old loops. So without awareness, without very intentional change in between the trigger and the response, we just keep going into that just almost like subconscious patterning.
We default, kind of to your point, to our most practiced patterns, not our best thinking. It reminds me, I was coaching 4th grade girls basketball this past year. One of the most fun experiences of my life. And, you can watch them doing layups and you're like, that form is really bad. And you can have them practice bad form over and over and over and over and over again if you want. And maybe they'll start to pick up a little bit better form. That's like there's some benefit to it, right? Or you can slow it down and say, okay, we're actually just going to practice that movement without the ball slowly. Now we're going to practice that movement with just one step. Now we're going to practice that movement with 2 steps. Now we're going to practice that movement with 2 steps and a dribble, right? And like getting more and more and practicing like these little micro pieces to almost kind of build up those repetitions of that specific movement. And then it becomes, almost to your point, a groove. And it is a groove in their brain. Like it becomes a groove now in their brain to be able to move the body in that way, in that capacity. Similarly, there are things we're doing when we're making decisions where it's like there are certain defaults that we almost have programmed. Maybe when we were really little that we never broke out of those programs, but that was the program that has just been practiced the most in our lives, and we haven't taken the time to almost slow down and develop these other programs.
And something to know about these programs, that they're not bad.
Sure.
They developed for a reason. They developed to protect us, but they happen probably very early in life. So most of the programming and patterns happen up to like age of 7, maybe 12. And we are different people now. What we needed back then, we don't need that anymore. So it's up to us right now to look at everything that is happening step at a time, Don't need to overwhelm the system and say, is this still useful? Is me kind of having this, overreactions? Like, how can I work with my overreactions? Because I notice after the fact that I overreacted, but there's always a point in time where you just before you get, overreactive, there's something happens. It's like, what is this? Like, how can you learn your system so well that you can start changing the default?
It reminds me of something that a youth pastor once told me. His name was Happy Peterson, which was when his daughter was 3, he was like, do not go in the road ever. That is absolutely bad. No, you know what I mean? Like very emphatically, that is bad. Now, when she's 16, it's like, well, absolutely, you can go to the road, you can cross the road. You just got to look both ways. Like it's a completely different thing that's going on there. Like you don't have to. There was programming that was necessary when you're 3 that becomes counterproductive when you're older. And so the same thing, like you were saying, where it's like these programs maybe that were written in our brains when we were younger were absolutely necessary. They were protective. They were good programs. They just need to develop for who we are now today to be able to be the most effective for who we are in this moment.
Yeah. And a lot of times when I work with clients one-to-one, we do something called parts work, and we identify a part that is running some sort of loop or pattern. And a lot of times if you ask that part, how old are you? Or even how old do you think I am? It'll come in like single digits. It'll be 3 or 5 or 7, very occasionally teenage years. But those patterns, like if you get in tune with yourself, you can find out when they first started.
Very interesting. Okay. So I want to talk about the 3 states, because you told me that there are kind of like 3 states that we have that people operate from. Break these down like I'm a stressed out founder who's staring at a declining ROAS. What are the 3 states that I might be operating from?
So I see people operate in 2. The third one is actually very rare. And that's where we want to come back to. So the ideal state is, and this is not like just black or white, there's always ranges.
Sure.
So the ideal state is the parasympathetic state, which is calm, connected, creative. We have empathy. We can see big picture. We have the access to both left and right hemispheres of our brain, so we can combine the logic and creativity. And from this state, there's a sense of calm, sense of being present and grounded. And it's much easier then to communicate with your team, with your clients. It's easier to make decisions because you can think creatively, especially like in media buying. Now creativity is more important than actual pressing buttons. So to access that part of the brain, you can't do it if you're very stressed.
Sure.
And from here, we have energy, and body is working at its optimal level. There is a little, there could be a little bit of stress. So, for example, if you love going hiking or jogging or cycling, that's a grounded state with some activation, but the activation is just bringing you just this excitement and energy to your system.
Yeah, that small amount of friction is almost like the friction that's necessary for the thing to move forward, right? It's like if your tires have no friction, the car can't go anywhere. You need just a little bit of friction so the tires can actually propel you forward.
Because if we're too relaxed, we will not have motivation. So with stress hormones, with adrenaline, you also get dopamine. So dopamine is our motivation hormone. So we need a little bit of adrenaline, just a tiny bit, then dopamine, and then cortisol. Otherwise, we'll be just, zen and meditating somewhere and not caring too much about any goals. So if we go out of that, what I call like a optimal performance window, too much stuff is happening at once, or maybe systems the body is too tired and it can't take as much as it normally would. Then the body goes into a survival state, which is fight flight, and that's what most people know probably best. It's the anxious, wired, very focused. For a period of time, you can be really focused like you were for 3 years, getting stuff done, setting up business. I see that a lot, and it can be useful because it gives you for a short period of time, it gives you that sharpness. You don't get distracted. Eyes on the prize kind of a thing. And you can keep going because adrenaline gives you so much energy that you can keep going without noticing, where there's stories where granny lifted some, something out of the burning building. So that sort of energy. But that energy has to come from somewhere, and it comes from our own system. So when we have been in this high alert state, we don't sleep as well. We constantly on. I work with a lot of people who say I can't switch off. I finish work, but I'm still thinking about work. So this is a chronic stress state, and adrenaline and cortisol keep pumping because we can't turn it off. And then energy runs out, and we go into the third state, which is called dorsal vagal freeze, which is basically overwhelm, burnout. And from there, we get brain fog, which is actual brain fog is inflammation in the brain. We get gut inflammation, which is secondary because they're very much linked. Immune system doesn't work as well. It's basically your body saying, I don't see way out of this threat of this survival. Let me play dead, and hopefully this animal that attacked me gonna lose interest and gonna walk away, and I might be still okay because I can't keep running. It's catching me and I can't run away. So let's use this last resort tactic.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So let's go to the stress state for a minute then. This feels like the state where I see especially founders or other people I almost call it flailing. I picture somebody who's drowning in a pool, or whatever. It doesn't have to be a pool, but they're drowning. And their reaction is, instead of making productive movements, it's to make unproductive movements that actually makes them go under further. It's flailing like this, and it's not actually helping them get out of the situation. They're doing something. They're not freezing. It's just unproductive. And I see people do this all the time, where it's like, okay, well, my ad account isn't doing what I want it to do, so I'm going to make this change and this change. I'm also going to make this change, this change, this. I'm going to change this on the website. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change my product. I'm going to change the price. And they've changed everything. They're just making all of these changes without like any real intention behind what they're doing. They're just like, I'm just going to make these changes because it feels good, because I feel like I'm being productive, but they're actually being counterproductive.
Yeah, it's fight or flight. So that's the response. And some people, they may become more kind of irritable and angry and confrontational, and blaming others. Some people will be on like, so that's the fight mode. And then flight mode is like, oh, I'm doing things wrong. Let me just do more. Let me keep working. And I'm taking all of the responsibility for everything that is happening. And like, that's not helpful either. It's like, if I'm running an ad account, Facebook ads or other ads is just a small fraction of the whole picture. It's like, is there something wrong with the offer, or is there something wrong with the tech? It's like, let's bring this to the client and let's discuss it as, a one group. And it's very hard to do it in this state, because it becomes us versus them. It becomes somehow we kind of in opposition, and we can't have this more like a grounded, connected state. So then it's easy to either, not bring up issues. I see that a lot. People say, I don't want to upset the client, so I'll try to figure this out somehow, by changing a lot of things on the meta side. Or you can say, no, there's nothing wrong with the ads. It's it's you guys. So that's what really then hurts the relationship. And at the end of the day, is like, we are working towards the same goal. So how can we have all realize that we're all stressed, and come to the place where we can work together instead of being enemies? I see that a lot.
Yeah. We'll come back to the frozen state later, because I want to play with this one for a little bit more, and then kind of get into like maybe solutions for it even too. But when I think about this state, it's a state that I definitely have found myself in a lot. It's a state that I feel like I found a lot of other people in. I actually wrote an article about the importance of Sabbath, and so regardless of what people's religious background is, I believe that Sabbath, or this idea of taking a day off, in my belief, the creator, the one who made me, said, hey, I've made you, and I'm going to tell you that this is an important thing to do. And what's interesting is I think a lot of the science seems to back this up, that it's like you have to get that. And one of the biggest ways that I notice that I'm in this state is when I start getting annoyed with people. And you mentioned you get irritable, and you're just like, all of a sudden people are just getting under your skin. When that happens, I realize that I'm like, I'm probably in the wrong state right now, because for the most part, relationships should bring us a lot of joy. There are people who can get under your skin, but when everybody starts getting under your skin, or they're just very easily, I'm probably the one who's in the wrong state at that moment. And I need to start looking at this and saying, I need to come back into this state of rest.
Yeah. Like, why are these birds singing outside? They're so annoying.
Yeah, right. That song is too happy. I don't want to be happy right now.
Yeah, there's different signs, and the irritability is a big one. Dreading work. It's like, I have to do this, instead of, no, I'm choosing to do this. Energy is a big one. Energy, and a lot of voices, parts of us, when we're in this wired state, they start showing up. maybe there'll be, what am I doing wrong? Or something like, the client will get upset, and a lot of times the mind goes to the worst places, like this. I will lose the job, I'll lose the house, I'll lose the family, I'll end up, being homeless. That's the way brain goes, and realizing that probably not going to happen. Let's be just, let's go to the worst case. Let's look at the best case and actually see what's realistic based on our lives and experience.
I think a lot of people can relate to those examples. I know I can. When we get into that state and we at least recognize, we go, wait a minute, this isn't a regulated state. I'm in this stress state, the fight or flight state, and I need to, change where I'm at. What are the main ways that you recommend we try to start changing that?
I work with body first. I always tell my clients, you can't outthink stress, because stress is survival response. And the way amygdala picks up threat is through the senses. So hearing, seeing, tasting, touching. What's the other one? There's one more somewhere.
Wait, you said hearing, seeing, tasting, testing, smelling. That's 5, right? Did I say one?
Okay,
I don't know.
5.
Okay, yeah. Okay. That's the 5 main ones. Tangent. Tangent. I like to ask kids how many senses you have. Those are the 5 main ones that we talk about, right? We also have the sense of like proprioception. I think that there's no official definition of how many senses we have, but it's like proprioception and all of these other senses that we also still have, but they're minor senses. So our 5 main senses. Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. Back on track.
Yes, so that's how we perceive danger or threat.
Sure.
So whether it's a Slack notification or any other notification or email we saw or the conversation we had, this is all comes in, gets processed, and subconsciously, based on past experiences, kind of decided, is it threat, is it safety? That's pretty much the main concern of the body. Yeah. We're kind of simple and complicated at the same time. So I can reverse engineer this process through the senses, and I can tell my amygdala in the moment, I am safe. I am safe right now, and I'm not thinking about future. I'm not thinking about anything that happened in the past. Right now in this moment, am I safe enough? And very easy exercise, somatic practice, body-based practice is called orienting, which is, we can do it through hearing and through sight. So we really slowly look around the room and we're saying, is there any danger here? So you scan the room until your body gonna, when you know you switched the states, you will get softening in your stomach. You will get maybe a yawn, a spontaneous deep breath. Maybe you'll notice that temperature changed, like in the fingers and your toes. And that's the body signaling, I am now in this calm state. And it's super easy to do. The more you practice, the quicker the switch comes. It's almost like the wiring, like, it's like Pavlov's dogs and salivating, there's a bell and there's idea of the food. So now when I start looking around, it's like I straight away feel like, it's all good.
I like
but
that.
Very simple, very quick, very simple.
I like both of those. So one is just looking around the room. There is no threat. I'm okay. Yeah. And then you said saying out loud, not even just inside your head, saying it out loud, because then you're having to make the mouth move. You're having to hear it. It reverberates in your head. You hear it come back through your ears. So it's like, just like, I am safe.
Yeah. I am safe. Or for some people, maybe it's I'm safe enough. And waiting for the body to give you the response back, because the messages that go up from the body to the brain, they are slower. They're not myelinated. So 3-5 seconds for that signal to come. So we look around, we give our body a moment, like, okay, maybe not yet. Let me look under the desk. Maybe look somewhere. Like, just be really thorough, and eventually it'll be like, okay, yeah, I can sense it. I can feel that I am much more present and grounded, and not things are not as urgent or important that they seemed like a few seconds ago.
Let me take it through two other scenarios just for fun. Let's say that you're on the volleyball court. I've got a daughter who plays volleyball at a really high level, and you just made a mistake. You missed your serve or whatever it was, right? It's like you just made a mistake, and you're feeling that rush of whatever bad chemicals of embarrassment or whatever that you're feeling at the moment. But you don't have 3 to 5 seconds to reset. You've got to reset because instantly. Is there a faster reset?
The more you'll practice, the faster it'll be.
Okay.
Another thing is breath. So slowing down the out breath. So taking, one breath can make a big difference. So breathing in on a count of 4, breathing out on a count of 6. And just mentally saying to yourself, okay, let's let go of that. Let's start fresh. Whatever the conversation, like, you can practice the conversation and see what is helpful. And then maybe it's just one word. I used to watch a lot of Wimbledon, and you can see, like, the guys in the break, they are having some sort of conversation. Like, they talking to themselves, they're talking to the part that got triggered, that got annoyed, and you have to become that self leader that can really work with those triggered parts, and don't let them take over, because once they take over, game's over.
This is interesting. Okay. So I was going to ask about, like, what if you're actually not safe? Melanie Marshall was on, and she was talking about how she's covering news, in, like, Baghdad. I don't remember where she was at, but, like, bullets are flying overhead. In that moment, you can't exactly scan the environment and say, I am safe, right? It's like, you're actually not safe, but you have to make a decision. But I want to skip that one for a second, because I like where you're going with this. That self-talk. It's almost like there are two parts of you in this moment, right? There's the one part that's firing instantly, and then there has to be that logic part of you that says, that almost has to have a conversation with your other self that says, hey, yeah, you missed that shot. Like, that stinks, but you're going to get the next one. Let's work about what we're training. What can you do differently this next time? You almost, to your point, have that conversation out loud with yourself. I think this is why I've seen people that are mic'd up that are at, like, these elite levels of sports. They do have, for the most part, significantly good self-talk, because you already have one part of your brain that's going to be firing off all the negative stuff that instantly, right? And you have to have some other part of your brain that's at least in control and going to bring that other piece of your brain back into alignment.
Yeah, that's huge. We have so many parts. Like, we probably could have 10, 15 parts, maybe even more. Some will be more dominant than others. There will be some parts that they're just so scared of let's say, the critic. Like, why did you mess up again? Like, that critic gonna be first, and then other parts are afraid to come in and say, no, it's fine. It's a game, and we are building on these skills, and here's what we need to learn. But, like, they're so scared to come to show up. So when we can realize that, no, I don't want to let that critic be so loud. Let me find, when I'm in a good state, let me find the part of me that is, logical and compassionate, and can bring that kind of almost like a negotiation, like there's a lot of negotiation. So it's like, and then you can practice that, like a tiny little escalation, and then maybe a level further and level further. It's like, and then you can do it at like extreme situations where you are in a game and you are maybe, you know, talking in the middle with the client, and you can notice those parts and you can say, okay, no, I see you. What you got to say, it's not very helpful right now. I'll come back to you later. Let's do this. Trust me.
Going back to those practiced patterns, right? And so it's like you've practiced those patterns. So when you get to that moment, you know how to handle that. I like that a lot. I want to go ahead. Well, were you going to say something?
It's practice is the most important thing. Like we can't just show up and expect to be able to do it. That's why we do meditation, because we want to start building awareness. Like that's the only purpose of meditations. Like notice the thought. It's not the thinking that we're trying, you know, to stop. It's the noticing. And when we can notice our voices and these critics and fearful parts, and we can bring the whole self on board, then you realize that what you're hearing in your own head it's just an old voice. It's not the actual truth. And
this reminds me a lot of programming as well, in the things that we watch, the things that we listen to. Those things are there, whether we consciously are recognizing them or not. Those voices are echoing around in certain parts of our brain, and they are very quick. If we've put those on repeat, they're very quick to want to jump in. To your point, then it's like if we don't have counterbalances to that, this is the whole point of, well, be careful what you listen to, be careful what you're watching, because that stuff does go into your brain. It is now a part of your programming to a point.
Yeah, and it's our our family, of origin, our culture, as you say, everything we see on TV. Like some clients I coached, let's say, female clients, they have this expectation of how you should be, as a mom and also a businesswoman, and like this superhero. When in reality, you can't be perfect at everything. You have different phases in your life, and you see, okay, what's priority to me right now? So Hollywood is creating a very unrealistic expectation, and then now social media. You don't know what's true, especially with AI generated stuff. I stopped going on social media. I mean, I still do some Facebook ads for clients, but it's like, that's job, but I do not want to spend time on social networks anymore.
What do you mean you don't run your own business, grow your own wheat, mill your own flour, turn it into your own pizza dough? Like, what do you mean we don't do all of the things, right? I want to go into then the other state, which was that overwhelm, freeze state, dorsal vagal, I think you said, right?
Yeah, dorsal freeze.
Yeah, so the dorsal vagal freeze. Tell me a little bit more about like the signs and symptoms that we've shifted. We've maybe run too long in the stress state. We're entering into this state. Like, what are the things that we're going to start to notice, the things we're doing, things we're saying, things we're thinking, so we can recognize that?
The body starts whispering first, and then it gets louder, and then it gets louder, and it gets louder, and then it screams. So it's very gradual. And it starts with, oh, I am tired. I'm tired at the end of the day, and I feel like I don't want to cook anything. I just want to grab maybe pizza and watch Netflix. And that's a very mild version of this state. You basically just zone out, because it's so uncomfortable to feel in this exhausted state. You kind of try to numb it somehow. And we all have different mechanisms for that. And it's, it's good to recognize, like, oh, I am grabbing for like ice cream. I must be, really tired, and I need to really just maybe get up an hour later and go to bed an hour earlier. So little kind of signals there.
I love that you just called out the TV one though. That was my default state for a while there. It was like, hey, I'd finally get done with work and it's, 11 o'clock at night. I'm just like, I just need to watch a show so I can go to bed. And it's literally the things that I would say. It's just like, I just need to be able to like turn off my brain, right? I just needed, and so that's interesting. I don't think I've watched TV 2 months. I think we tried to watch a show, my wife and I, the other day, and I'm like, I just don't find it enjoyable anymore. Like, I don't want to. There's just so many other really exciting things. And I think part of that is, like you said, it's like, I'm no longer in this like frozen state where I'm just like, I just got to turn off my brain. It's like, no. My brain's just really happy and fine doing what it's doing right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's very mild version. Then you can go into, I get up in the morning and I'm already tired. And I really need coffee to get me going, because coffee is adrenaline. So then you go from burnout to stress. And then we use adrenaline to keep going through the day and then switch off again in the evening. So this is a very common pattern that I see. And then in some point in time, depending on someone's system and what other health conditions they have and genetics and everything else and epigenetics, there comes a point the body just can't take it anymore, and then it's like it turns itself off. Like it happened to me when I was working for a big advertising agency. I was super excited when I joined there, worked my ass off, and got to the high level. That was probably about 12-14 months in, and I remember I had a team call it was my evening time because it was US based, and I went to check ad account, and as I'm looking at the ads manager, I see what's on the screen, but I can't compute. I can't really make any decisions. So like, is this good? Is it bad? Like, what do I do? And then with that came this interesting kind of like a metal band came across my forehead, and I had this severe headache, and then the panic. How long will it last? What the heck is this? Because I always thought I was invincible, I can just put it myself, and how the body just gonna, submit to my mind. Sure. I'll keep going. And this, like, when I'm gonna be able to work? Like, I need to pay bills and all this, chatter started. And I was in that state for about 2 months, I would say, 2-3 months. So working maybe, yeah, it was. And every day when it's not getting better, that same anxiety comes in. It's like, what is it and how long it'll last? So to the point where like I couldn't watch movie because it was such a big sensory load on my sight, on my brain, that it would cause headaches. So screen time was limited to probably 2 hours a day for a long while. So I had to, like, gradually I went back to normal. I took a lot of supplements for energy, but my normal wasn't my regulated state. My normal was back to the stress, anxiety. And then even less than a year later, I felt like, okay, I'm burning out again. So it can come on really fast. It can come on gradually, but energy and decision making is two big kind of factors and kind of symptoms that people, I think, will notice.
I've certainly felt this myself. Even recently, one of my daughters felt this, and it was interesting because we started talking, and she started, tearing up over a couple of things, and she was just talking about how she's just annoyed with everybody, kind of thing. And it's like, okay, I recognize kind of where you're at. And we talked through some things, and as we continued to talk, and she was able to get some of these things off of her chest, and all the things that were kind of bothering her. And she's she's doing a lot, right? And I won't go into all the details because I don't want to say which daughter it is, right? But it's like she's doing a lot, and she's very, very productive, like impressive, right? And it's like, but she's been using that productivity to basically shut off a whole lot of these other parts of her life. And it was interesting because it's like we get through all of this and we're done talking, and she cries a little bit, and then she just takes a nap. She hadn't taken a nap in forever, and she was like, I needed that, right? And it's like she almost couldn't relax until like was able to like process some of this stuff. And so I wrote this article that I'm going to share in the notes for people too, but it's a father's letter on relationship and productivity. And it's just like, because I have felt that before, I know what it's like to get in that state where you're just like, go, 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 go. And then you just can't. And like you said, it's like, I can remember looking at words on a page or numbers, and you're like, I know this stuff, but I literally cannot process what is right in front of me. Your brain is just like, nope, not today. We're just not doing it. And like you said, that state can last for a while. It's a really frustrating spot to be in.
It is, because you feel like, oh, I want to do this. Like, I want to run my business. I want to, I just, do things.
Not just I want, I need to. I have to get this done. Right.
Yeah. And, and then it's not happening. And it's so frustrating. And again, those different parts come up, and the fears, and it's like, it's so beautiful that your daughter can come to you and can talk to you, and you're not just going to dismiss and say, don't worry about it. Sure. So that co-regulation and being heard, it's so important for people because they feel so alone in the experience. And I think, if you're working for an agency, it's very difficult to go to a manager for people because they feel like I will be seen as someone's weak, someone is not fit to work here, maybe I'll lose my job. So people suffer through that in silence, and then eventually they burn out anyway, and then they leave. And I find it so just mind-boggling where the manager or the business owner can say, why don't you take a week off, and then you'll come back much more refreshed, make sure you rest, don't worry about the accounts, and then people would like, week is a lot of time for people to recover. And when I ran ads for agencies, there is no one who covers holiday.
Right.
Or, if you figure something out, then you have to then cover for someone else. And that's like double load. And you think, I was just not going to bother. I'll just be on all the time. And just some rest, some ability to switch off. That's all we need every so often.
I totally feel that. Run an agency that does ads. So we talk about that a lot as a team. I have told everybody on my team, and in case I have never told this to anybody, like I try to tell this specifically to every single person we hire, but I'm going to say it again right now, right? If you need to talk to somebody, if you need time off, please, please, please make sure that we know, take the time off. We have no questions asked, mental health days, just take it off. You just say, I can't today. I just can't. Right? We will cover things. Nothing is that big of an emergency. You need the time off. And when I say that, I will talk to you about anything. It's like, I have cleared my calendar to talk to somebody whose dog died, right? It's like, great, this meeting doesn't need to happen. Call me. Let's talk. Because I recognize the value of the weight of the human side of who we are. And that is way more important than whatever that ad is. And you're not going to be effective if your dog is actively, passing away, or you had to put them down, or whatever today, or whatever else is going on. Like, there are things that are happening in our life that it's like, look, this is more important. Somebody else can handle whatever those changes are. Let's talk about the things that are very real and human for you right now.
I've seen agencies lose their best people because the best people work their way up to where they are. They gained experience, but then they can't take time off because no one wants to let them to take time off. And it's great that you have that. And I think the more human we can be, the happier the team gonna be, and they're gonna be doing better work, even knowing that it's an option. Like, even knowing that something's an option helps us stay out of that freeze state.
Yeah. So let's say that aside from taking 7 days off to recover, what are some other ways? No. I know, but I'm saying like you do need that sometimes. Besides that, what are other ways that you reach this state? Let's say like the extreme version of this state, right? Like where you're just like, I'm frozen. What are some ways that you can help to get yourself out of that?
Safety and rest. So safety is orienting is one of those tools. Even if no one ever says, unless they're actually unsafe, but no one ever says, I feel unsafe. Mm-hmm. But underneath, there is so much going on. So using the tools that we can tell our body we are safe. The orienting, the breath work, there's different ones that I teach. Then rest and energy recovery. So what happens in shutdown is it's not just mental burnout, it's also physical. So we want to have as much sleep as possible. We want to be taking supplements. I even go the route of getting some IVs. Sure. That really, helps me to get out of the worst place. Like in November, I was traveling a lot. I was like almost out for the whole month in the States and working at the same time. And then my mom got ill and I was very stressed about her. And I could feel like in a week, like on top of traveling and on top of the stress with my mom, and like in a week, I was like, I'm in burnout. So let me find a place where I can get IV. So I had a couple of those, like one a week. And I felt better, like straight away. I felt better. So the biology part plays massive difference, and it's just so easy to do. Like if you can't go and get IV, take magnesium, take B group, take things like CoQ10 and PQQ that are specific for energy. There's so much out there. Like obviously, check that it's good quality.
Sure. Do you have a list of these somewhere that we could link to that you're like, hey, here's my top favorite supplements or whatever to take?
Yes, I will share. I have a Google Doc that I share.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'll share that with your audience. And napping, like naps are really important. And there is something that you can do it like between maybe Zoom meetings or between tasks. And there is another somatic practice called cardio-ocular reflex. So basically, it's like an eye support. So the optical nerve is linked to the vagus nerve, and we can turn off that response and give ourselves a little, like someone called it like a micro nap.
How? So, can you show me?
Yes, I can show you. So we make sure the hands are nice and warm. So you can rub your hands together, and then I'll take my glasses off. Then we take our fingertips and we start just find the outline of the eye socket. And it's probably never done that in your life. So all the way around, eyebrows, and just say hi to your eyes.
Hello, eyes.
And so now you've got the outline. We'll take our palms of our hands or heels of our hands, and we want to place the heels over the eyes.
Okay.
And if do you have anything to lean on, like your desk, right?
Sure. So
just lean into the palms and see what pressure your eyes like. If it likes a bit like gentle pressure, if it wants to completely collapse into the palms, and just notice what happens in your system if you notice any changes. And then you can stay here for a couple of seconds. You can stay here for 30 seconds. You could even stay there for like a whole minute. Like depends what your system needs. And then, I'm back. I kind of feel just a little bit more refreshed.
You didn't hypnotize me to act like a chicken while we did that, did you?
I didn't.
Okay, just making sure. Um, what about like cold water, like mammalian dive reflex, helpful in certain situations?
It is not helpful if you're already in
Okay.
overwhelm because that it's stress. So if you
Sure.
already have too much stress on your system, it will be, could be a straw that breaks the camel's back. So you have to be careful with cold exposure and heat. It's very nice to stretch your system and kind of see like, okay, I'm not breaking myself. I'm just stretching a little bit and then I'm recovering. But if you're already tired, then it's not a great idea.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about, so maybe not that one, but let's say walks during when you're just in like that acute stress phase, not the freeze phase, but you're in the stress phase. I heard someone say that our brain thinks best at 3 miles an hour. And I've noticed for myself that I get a particular email or something that just sets me off and I'm like, gonna get up, just gonna go for a short little walk. And I feel a lot better when I do.
There is a lot to that, especially if you can find nature as well, because nature is regulating. The reason it's good because stress was designed for escaping or fighting.
Sure.
So our lives became so sedentary that we don't move. So adrenaline comes up and we are sitting here like stuck, like even just being in this, mobilized position can put us into freeze. So getting out and getting that adrenaline out of the muscles, they literally go into the muscles because they are preparing you for running away or fighting. So that's why it works so well, because we're processing adrenaline, the body's moving because that's what it's designed to do, and your thinking mind comes online, and then you say, oh yeah, I can figure this out.
I like that. I want to get into the next section. I want to get into know who is Rita Ainsworth. You grew up in Lithuania until you're 10, but take me to that moment, that time growing up, what it was like and how you think has shaped you to be who you are today.
So I remember it as a very simple life. I grew up on a farm. There's not many houses around. There was very basic, facilities. There was just everything was very simple and basic. But I never felt that there was any kind of lack. And there were 2 or 3 TV channels. There was probably 2 kinds of bread in the shop you could buy. There was 3 kinds of cheese. Like everything was just so simple. I guess it helped with like now we have decision fatigue. We have so much choice.
Just gonna say that. Have we complicated life from what that was? Yeah.
I think so. And there was a lot of nature. There was a lot of animals living, on in the countryside. So as much as I guess I wanted to get out from there because every kid and teenager thinks, oh, I just hate this place. But now looking back, I just feel so grateful that I had that simplicity. Yeah. And I know that I can be happy with very little. There were many periods in my life where I've had so many different careers. Like, I started as a pharmacist and then I was working in real estate, and there was financial crisis, and I lost job, and I went from making really good money to having nothing and trying to figure stuff out. But at every point I felt I'm happy, I can figure stuff out. Instead of going out, I can cook a nice meal at home. Like the key is people around me and the relationships. And right now, like the older I get, it's nature, being as much in nature as I can. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was interesting times because we didn't have I called them, foreign movies. We didn't have foreign movies. We had some good old Russian movies that they would, New Year's Eve, you would watch the same one, and maybe there was one that you watched as a kid during summer holidays, and it still was enjoyable. It's like, oh, I look forward to this, because you couldn't get it on demand.
I love that. You told me that school and work became a big source of external validation for you, and that you drove to some of these experiences.
So one, it was cultural.
Okay.
You have to work hard. I think it came from being so close post the war. So my mom was born during Second World War, and then she was actually born in Russia and then brought to Lithuania by Germans on some, train. They were just got offloaded, the whole family, and they had to find a way around.
Wow.
So for my mom, it was ingrained, the work and survival and having enough food on the table. So I saw her as like my hero, and I thought the working hard was the best thing you could do. And then on the other hand, my dad and I, we didn't have a great relationship, and I wanted to be like complete opposite, but at the same time, I felt like validation from him was important. So how can I get that attention? How can I be the best student? And that got ingrained without me even realizing. And then it became, oh, how can I be the best at what I do? Doesn't matter what career I was in. And that drove me to burnout. It wasn't like as much as this environment is set up to burnout. If you set good boundaries, if you know that you are the most important person, that your worth is not tied to outcomes and the work you produce, you will be able to speak up and to ask for what you need. And I didn't have that. I didn't have those skills. I constantly felt like I will be found out, that I'm not good enough, that I had to keep working. And it wasn't just work, it was personal relationships as well. And feeling like if I'm not doing, then I'm not good enough. So sitting with that discomfort and facing it instead of keep running it away from it, and wanting to use doing and work as a coping strategy became less of a good option. And yeah, I did a lot of work, lots of coaching. Most of it came from me taking coach training programs, and we just coached each other like every single day until I ran out of topics to talk about. And then I felt, okay, I feel like I'm a different version of me. I am not the 4, 5, 7, 12, 14-year-old versions of me. I am bringing myself to me 40 years old, or now 46. So yeah, I had some upgrades.
That's great. Do you have any quotes that you live by?
I do. I have one that it became important to me when I continued sacrificing my joy and happiness for some future version of it. And it says, how we live our days is how we live our lives. Because it's so easy to say, I will do this thing when I have less work, or I will do this when God forbid retire, or it's easy to sacrifice things that are important, and for me those things are my health and my relationships. So every day I try to live as like as it was like, this is what my life looks like. Because after how many days we have available, like that will be a combination of what our life is like. And another one is ships are safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are built for.
Good one.
And it kind of ties in with the nervous system, because we need to know that we have safety and we can always venture out and then come back when it gets too stormy. But we can go out and, we can choose our storms, the storms that we can manage, and that feels like an adventure, not terror.
Yeah, we weren't meant to be sedentary and just sit here and do nothing. We were meant to go, do, be productive, create. We were meant to go on adventures and challenge and do things, right? So, that's a powerful thought. It's good to find that safety, but it's good to find the ability to feel safe throughout that adventure and to know that that's okay. My wife and I were talking about this with something where it's like, without going into details of what we're going to do, it's like something that is like potentially like a big risky thing. And it's like, if I think about doing this for the next 30 years, I feel incapacitated, right? Then I'm like, I just can't make that. But it's if I say, we're going to do it for 2 years and we'll see what happens. As long as I know that it's like, this doesn't have to be a permanent decision. Let's go and do this thing and try this thing and see how it works. Then it feels a little bit more like an adventure. And so I've started looking at things as micro adventures, and I'm like, what is the adventure of our life right now, right? Let's adventure. Let's go and do that, versus trying to think that this is like this big giant thing that we're going to it's a permanent decision that we've made.
Yeah. Like we have choice at every moment. We have choice, and sometimes it's not the choice we want to make, but it's still a choice. We don't have to be stuck. Like I am in the next month, just over a month, I am relocating to South America. And
really?
Yes. And I think to myself, why not try? If I don't like it, I can always come back. Like there's nothing to lose. So it's the ability to go and have adventure, and also ability to say, if it doesn't work out, somehow be a failure, and I will not be able to come back because I'll be too embarrassed. No, I don't know what's gonna happen. I never know what will gonna happen. Even when we think we know what will happen, we don't.
But that's the adventure, right? And I think that's what I was looking at for my wife and I too, with this thing that we're gonna do, where it's like, yeah, but if it doesn't work out, then it's like you feel like you've messed up. But it's like, but if you look at it as it's not a thing that you have to accomplish, it's just an adventure. And like, you know what, your boat might sink, you end up on like this deserted island, and you're like, what? That just makes the story even better. Like, what a story to tell, right?
Yeah. Will I die? No. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, that's a good, well, and you still might say, yeah, you might, like, I don't know, like, you're going to do like parachuting or whatever. So you might, but the risk is still pretty low. And if you do, at least you've got a good story about how it went, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Something that you told me that was important to you, and I like to ask people about their passions. And one of the things you said is just like spiritual passion, like just something that's bigger than you. Tell me a little bit more about like that passion in you and why that became a passion.
I was very much like most left brain thinkers, and everything for me had to have logic and proof and scientific proof.
Love it.
And if I couldn't touch it, it was, discounted. And then I was going through a tough period in my life where I had to make a hard decision, relationship decision. And for about a year, I was going between my head and my heart. And there was no way to, like, one was right and then the other was right. And I felt like I needed some external support. So I looked for other ways to help me make the decision. So that was my beginning of just playing, dabbling with like different spiritual modalities that are out there. And it was more of a play. It did help me. I had a lot of validation from what I discovered. And then the real kind of a test was of this becoming less of like theory, more of a reality, is I had a brain infection. Out of nowhere. It was probably 3 years ago, and it started out as a cold, but few days in, I felt like I know it's not. There's something more serious going on. And I had to go to the emergency room. I had rash all over my body. I had swelling in my feet and dizziness, and I didn't know what was happening. And for some reason, the conventional medicine was ignoring me and telling me to go and wait. And it wasn't bad enough yet for them to do much about it. And my friend, in kind of prior to that, talked about this healer she met. And she was working with him, and I messaged her, said, I need some help. I don't know what to do. I'm super scared. So on that day, I was already called ambulance because I was afraid that I will pass out. I don't know what will happen. I was living on my own. And I got on a call with him. He lives in South Carolina. And we started talking, and he was asking me questions, not just health related, but general, like about me. And hour and a half into the call, I could feel the feet swelling went down. And I kept in contact with him on WhatsApp. And when I had really severe headaches or dizziness, I would message him, and he would say, okay, just sit down, let me do some work. And I could feel like the headache moving around and dissipating. And for me, the concept of spirituality, and that there is something more than what we can see, became so real. Like, it was just such a shock to the system, experience that. Interestingly, I don't wish it for anyone, but it was one of the best experiences that happened to me. In hindsight, I had to face a lot of fears, and I now have this gift of understanding that there is so much more. There is bigger purpose, that I am in ways connected to the universe, that I have this as a resource, and kind of this, this human life is not as serious as we make it out to be. So it was a gift in so many ways. And I say to people, I feel like I was seeing the world in black and white, and then all of a sudden I could see it 3D.
You mentioned it being a gift to go through something so horrible, and I can't think of very many examples of somebody that talk about like this gift that they had without going through something horrible. Like the amount of times that we hear this. And what's so interesting about that is it's like we're so scared to go through those really challenging times ourselves without realizing that it's like the things that we likely want and desire are on the other side of the most challenging things we're going to go through. And that's not just true for us, that's true for our kids. And we want to protect our kids. We don't want them to go through that, but like that means keeping them from the thing that's even greater and even more exciting. And just that idea of, like you said, spirituality is something that's bigger, that's beyond this. I think I like science a lot as well. I like physics. We talk a lot about quantum entanglement and things like that. I think about how it's like, okay, somebody who's on a phone with you, right? Like not even in the same room, not even in the same country. I think that there are things that take place even at a quantum level that we don't yet understand. I think maybe at some point in time, we'll have a little bit better understanding of that. And I'm not taking it away from the spirituality. What I'm saying is that it's like, I believe that a lot of the spirituality that we see and things like that still has like some element of again, I'm going to go back and say, like, I'm a Christian. And so I believe that God created the quantum world even, and that he uses the quantum world as a way to be able to do some of these things that we still perceive as, outside of what we understand in science. But I think that he's like, no, I created science. Like I made it so that way it works this way on purpose.
Yeah. I'm with you, with you on that, because I feel like science still catching up with spirituality, and looking back at ancient civilizations, they knew so much more than we do with our technologies, and like we're rediscovering the wheel right now, and we're just at the very beginning.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Rita, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. This is, again, one of my favorite topics to talk about. If people wanted to work with you or follow you, what is the best way for them to get in touch and stay in touch with you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Rita Ainsworth, or they can come to my website, ritaainsworthcoaching.com. I do have a quiz to check what state people are in, what state their nervous system is in. So it's a fun quiz, and they can then have some resources to help them to support that state. And if they want to work with me, I have a group coaching session every Friday. I have a small group of performance marketers, research circle. We practice the tools that I shared today. We talk about our parts. We have just nice conversations where we're going through the same experience, and everyone's already been there and they can support each other. So it's a nice community. So if someone feels like they feel a bit alone in this industry or business they're running, then they're very welcome to come and check it out.
Did you tell me you had like a coupon code or like an offer or something, or am I forgetting something?
So it's free until they're happy to pay. I don't want to force people into fast decisions. That's not how nervous system works. And I want to create it as a safe environment for people to do this work. And it's up to them to decide when they're ready.
Amazing. Rita, it has been a lot of fun talking to you, learning from you. Thank you very much for sharing your time, sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you. It was lots of fun. Good conversation.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Up Arrow podcast with William Harris. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.